Hey friends, my name's Steve Guttenberg, and I am the audiophiliac. And today I have to make a confession. And as a matter of fact, this is a big one. It's a hard one to say. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to turn away from the camera as I say this because it's a hard thing to say. I mean, you guys have a certain impression of me, and I'm going to say something that it's taken me this long. I started this channel in October 2017, and here we are in mid-May, and I'm going to admit something, but. Yeah, I'm gonna turn away and then I'll come right back. Okay. So I bought a Bose speaker in like 1973, a Bose 501. Okay, so I said it. Now, you know, I really didn't want to buy the Bose even then. I wanted to buy a JBL L100 speaker. I mean, that was my fantasy speaker. It was beautiful looking at it, gorgeous. Oil walnut cabinet, had a big white 12-inch woofer. It was just gorgeous. It had those foam grills with the squares on them, the orange ones and the blue ones, the grills that is. And it was a killer rock and roll speaker. It was a dream speaker for me, and it was just too expensive. It was about $530 in that time, in the early 70s, and there's no way that I was going to spend that much money. So I kept wanting it, and I kept going to listening to it in stores and bugging people to hear it. And actually, one of my drug dealer friends had them, and I used to go to his place and listen to them all the time. So I knew that they were exactly what I wanted, but I just couldn't spring for that kind of money. And nobody ever discounted that speaker. They didn't have to because people were lining up to buy them. So what did I buy? I bought this Bose 501 instead. And it was so funny that the salesman who was selling it, he knew that I wanted the other speaker, and I think they were in the same store. But he said, "No, you're going to love the Bose. Bose is great, you know." And there was a thing about Bose at that point. There wasn't really an anti-Bose thing among audiophiles. That came later. And there was a thing about the company and the mountain and all that stuff. And the 901 was, you know, raved about, which was the top Bose speaker at that time. And I listened to those and I liked those, but they didn't do what the JBLs did. So I never really wanted those, and those were even more expensive than the JBLs. So I wound up with these 501s, and their whole thing was that they had direct reflecting sound. So some of the sound of the mid-range, I don't think it even had a tweeter. I think it had like a 3-inch, quote, full-range driver and then a separate woofer. So there was one that fired forward and one that fired backwards, so it was reflecting off the wall. That's the direct. The forward was the direct, and the backwards one was the reflecting, and it created this big sound. And it did. That part worked, and it was really cool. So it was less boxy, because speakers were pretty boxy sounding in the 70s, and it didn't suffer from that. So I had it, and I had it actually I had it a while. I had it until 1977 or so, and I heard a pair of speakers from a company called Fried, F-R-I-E-D, and they were like the JBLs, but maybe even better. And I wanted them, but they didn't really have a dealer. I don't remember how I heard them, but they didn't have a New York dealer, and I'm looking around trying to find a dealer, and I was looking at a classified ad in some newspaper, and there was a store called Sound by Singer that had these Fried speakers. So I go to the store, and yeah, they were everything I wanted them to be. They were the speaker, way better than the Bose, maybe even better than the JBLs, and they were cheaper than the JBLs, so I bought them. And I would say I lived happily ever after, but that, not only that, but it was the beginning of my life as an audiophile, because I met Andy Singer, we really hit it off, and the rest, as they say, is history. I worked for Andy for 16 years. I learned so much about the high-end audio industry in those years, and not only from the industry, but dealing with customers, and it really set the course for the rest of my life. So, you know, one thing does lead to the next, and that's great. That's the story of life. So for this YouTube channel, I have a way of people subscribing to it and pledging money, like $1 a month or $2 a month, and that's fantastic. It's on a site called Patreon, which I will link to. But for the people who subscribe for more than for $10 a month or more, I have a special shout-out thank you for them, and I'm looking for the list of their names, which I will do right now. And if I mispronounce anybody's name, I apologize in advance. So there's John Hoagie, there's Nicholas Cromato, Alex Van de Wint, Vinnie Rossi, Tim Bathras, Walter Wyndham, Jonathan Skull, John Mercer, and Steve Michaud at theheadphoneannex.com. Thank you guys so much. But if you can give a dollar or two per month, that would be fantastic as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.